Year 9, 10 and 11, welcome to another example of a Band 6 response. That was awarded 29 out of 30 by the examiners. The question is, how is power presented in London in one other poem? This student has picked Checking Out My History. So you've got In London by William Blake, power is presented through the vigour of authority and perhaps the powerlessness of those in London in poverty. In Checking Out My History, power is presented through the unjust power of the whites, and perhaps it presents the lack of power and influence the black heroes have on history. In terms of structure in London, we have 4 regular quatrains. This exemplifies the confining, repressing authority the government, the church and the royals have over the powerless people of London. It also creates a cyclical sense of evil from the authority and the persistence the evil takes. Alternate rhyme is used throughout the poem to highlight the conflict between the powerless and the powerful, and the worrying disparity of the classes leading to the suffering. The iambic tetrameter is used to prolong the suffering of the people and of William Blake. It creates a negativity when it exaggerates the ongoing suffering and has a pessimistic tone. Shazera, every voice, also extends the suffering the people of London face. Checking Out My History is non-standard phonetic spelling, which embraces the natural accent of John Agard. He does this in an attempt to push the influence of black history into white education. The influence of black historical figures is further presented as repressed and powerless in the 2 structures of the poem. Unlike in London, these irregular stanzas outline the lack of power and influence of black historical figures. The thinner italic stanzas speak of these historical figures but have less rhyme and shorter lines to establish that those figures have less influence on white culture. Throughout the other stanzas outlining white education, use rhyming couplets, triplets and quatrains to further denote that white historical figures overpower black, unlike London. There is no punctuation within the whole poem, which creates this flow of frustration from Agard, and may also present and emphasise the neo-racism that education leaders have, but not including black history in the school curriculum. At the conjunction but, we have a volta, as there is a clear change in influence and power that the white leaders have over Agard and his history. Arguably, the last 4 lines are anaphora to the first 5. However, they contrast the first 5, blind to carved. This insinuates that he is now using his own power and influence to learn about his history, rather than have his knowledge limited to white education. Mind forged is the adjective which shows us that the people are not only physically restrained, but mentally and perhaps spiritually confined to the oppressed, dull life powerless Londoners face. This creates a wider issue as the disparity of the classes clearly presents a fault in the physical and mental health of those Blake sees in London. It emphasises how much power the government, the church and the royals have on each individual. Plagues are now used, and the last line has more than one meaning. Initially, we can assume that it refers to disease in the 18th century, as poverty was common, which spread illness. Blake notices the prostitutes and realises that physically they will spread disease to men and others. Metaphorically, the plague is the plague which destroys marriage, as the men go to prostitutes for other pleasures. This creates a problem, as not only is the poverty and prostitution spreading disease, it also spreads divorce and argument. Therefore, symbolically, the power of the government and church destroy happiness and the health of the proletariat. Natural imagery is used in Checking Out My History to highlight Agard's fight against biased history. This contrasts London, as it shows us that there is power trying to speak up against the repression. The semantic field of nature in Dethorne, Freedom River and Sunrise emphasises Agard's point that black history should not be controlled and overpowered by white history. Black rights and history should not be controlled. Alternatively to London, John Agard uses non-standard phonetic spelling of dem, which firstly separates the black history and the white history. Then it shows us the forcefulness and power of white education system of history. Again, it got 29 out of 30. It was in timed conditions, obviously, exam conditions. You can clearly see how the students achieved that. Deep analysis of structure, deep analysis of language, especially individual words. Please check out my YouTube channel for any other videos you may need, and massive good luck in your English literature exam.